people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This weekend, a fight that might have flown a bit low on the radar. Multi-weight champion from Argentina, Daniela Bermudez, was in action opposite the ring, Daniela Ribeiro, and the prediction stuck. She won the fight. She stopped her in 5 rounds. And my suspicions proved accurate. It is Daniela Bermudez's intention to return to the super bantamweight division. She's been gradually making her way south fight by fight. Her last fight before this one was up there at lightweight I believe it was, 135. And this fight, I believe it was at 126, featherweight, where she fought Amanda Serrano well over a year ago, where she was stopped by Amanda Serrano. And based on that, knowing that this fight would be fought at featherweight, I figured it can't be Daniela Bermudez's intention to stay at featherweight, because no matter what, that division's undisputed champion is Amanda Serrano. Any fight you win, any title you want to fight for, you'd end up fighting her again. And a rematch with Amanda wouldn't go any differently than the first fight did. So I figured it can't be Daniela's intention to continue to campaign as a featherweight, even if there are 1 or 2, maybe even 3 interesting matchups that she could have, like perhaps a fight with Erica Cruz, Mexico's former WBA champion, or Sarah Mahfoud, Denmark's former IBF champion. Interesting fights are there for Daniela Bermudez. But the super bantamweight division, just south of featherweight, 122 pounds, that's a more fertile division, a more fertile environment for Daniela than featherweight. Daniela, who sports a professional record of 31 wins with 4 losses, 3 draws, 11 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once. Just once in 38 professional contests by one of the biggest punchers, the biggest pound-for-pound punchers in the sport, Amanda Serrano. So there's no shame in that. Daniela Bermudez has fought twice since having been stopped by Amanda in March of 2021. She sat out all of 2022 as she was with child, returned to action earlier this year in February. She got herself back in the winner's bracket, and she was just in action this past weekend. She's trying to get some momentum going, only 33 years old. Over the years, I've watched Daniela Bermudez evolve from an ambitious young champion to a seasoned veteran. She'd be a welcome addition to today's super bantamweight division. There are 4 champions in today's super bantamweight division. New Zealand's own IBF champion Shernika Johnson, who's going to be in action very soon opposite the ring, unbeaten Ellie Scottney, and in that fight, the IBF title might end up changing hands. There is WBC champion of Mexico, Jamie Mercado, who was in action not that long ago. There is also, opposite the ring, her mandatory challenger, Krukwashe Chiwandire. She won that fight. Retained the WBC title. There is WBO champion of Argentina, Deborah Dionysius, who's going to be in action this upcoming weekend in defense of her WBO title against former WBO champion Sigaline Lafarve of France. And I anticipate the title will change hands in that fight. Sigaline will reclaim it. There is WBA champion of Venezuela, Mayerline Rivas. There are 4 champions at this weight, 4 separate champions. There's a lot of movement at 122 pounds right now. A host of unbeaten up-and-comers like Ramla Ali and Ellie Scottney. There is also Daniela Bermudez's countrywoman, hard-punching Nazarena Romero. This is a deep division, and it will become that much deeper once Daniela Bermudez arrives down there. She's making her way down, fight by fight. It's entirely possible that her very next fight will be at 122 pounds. Right now, it's just about staying busy, staying active, staying sharp, and gaining some momentum. I don't think it'll take Daniela Bermudez very long to return to action later on this year, presumably in the summer months, then perhaps one more time before this year is out. Based on the schedule she's on, she might fight 4 times this year. You don't often see somebody as seasoned, as experienced as a Daniela Bermudez keeping a schedule like that, but because she's trying to reintegrate integrate herself into the world title picture. Moreover, because she's trying to campaign as a super bantamweight, she does have to stay busy. She can't afford to have any big lags in between fights. That would just make the weight harder to make. Congratulations to her for racking up another W this past weekend, and as stated, I anticipate that she will return very soon, perhaps in the summer months. In men's 136-pound news, per Boxing Insider Rick Glacier, Davis versus Garcia is definitely a pay-per-view success. I think it did 650,000 to 700,000 pay-per-view buys. We'll have the actual number later in the week. The fight crossed over to general sports fans, which is a segment Gervonta Davis had never reached before, and Ryan Garcia never headlined a pay-per-view before. This bodes very well for both fighters going forwards, and I have to disagree. It will be hard to have faith in Ryan and his ability to perform moving forward based on the hype associated with this fight in retrospect with what you actually got. Ryan did look good out there. I said it several times in the build-up of the fight. Ryan Garcia's confidence ahead of it was compelling, though not convincing. So how much harder will it be to convince the Gentiles, the boxing community at large, moving forward on the heels of a performance like that? We have to question as to whether or not Ryan Garcia will return later on in the year. Who will he fight? How's he going to look? Immediately after the fight, Ryan Garcia said he's going to go up to 140 pounds. And I can tell you now, I wouldn't give him any odds to beat Subriel Matias or Regis Prograis. I think they do him worse than Gervonta Davis did this weekend. That's what I think. Yeah. I think about tricky fighters like Jack Catterall and Sender Martin. Those guys ain't easy to beat. And they're southpaws too, the same way that Gervonta Davis is a southpaw. It's going to be interesting at minimum. It's going to be interesting to see how Ryan Garcia does at 140 pounds and who does he fight, because there's a lot of dangerous fights up there, a lot of high-risk, low-reward fights. But Rick Glacier is reporting that based on his estimates, this fight did good at the box office, and that doesn't surprise me because his estimates and his projections for what the fight did are in line with my own. Ahead of the fight several times here on the channel during live streams, I anticipated that the fight might do somewhere in between 600,000 and perhaps even 800,000 buys. It could do that well. The singular event, though, moving forward. Let's go with the highest number. Let's round up and let's say that the fight did approximately 700,000 buys. Well, that's a good number, but that's a good number, a very good number, with a high-profile dance partner, a high-profile opponent that brought more value and more attention to the show than any fighter Gervonta Davis fought in the past. And Gervonta Davis has made 5 separate pay-per-view appearances, not counting this one. And he's never done numbers like this. Nowhere near 600 to 700,000 pay-per-view buys. Thus, it's safe to say that is the added value that a high-profile dance partner brings you. How many more Ryan Garcias do you think are lying around in between 135 and 140 pounds? How many? I saw Regis Prograis, WBC champion, 2-time super lightweight champion, Regis Prograis, post-fight called Gervonta Davis the face of boxing. And he's not alone. I saw a lot of people saying this more or less after the fight, and I find it comical how desperate the American boxing scene is for an idol, what I describe as a false idol, because even if this fight did 700,000 buys, that's less than Canelo Alvarez sold with Caleb Plant. Did you guys forget who the face of boxing is in this country? No, it's not Gervonta Davis, not even based on 700,000 pay-per-view buys for this weekend's fight. That falls just under what Canelo sold with Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant was not to Canelo what Ryan was to Gervonta. Ryan was a high-profile dance partner for Gervonta, whereas Caleb... We're going to pretend that 800,000 people paid to see Caleb? We're going to pretend that Caleb has the same social media presence that Ryan Garcia has? Is that what we're doing now? The problem, the fundamental issue with this notion that Gervonta Davis is now the new face of boxing is that moving forwards, who else can he fight that would bring him this kind of viewership, these kinds of numbers? Who else? It's not like he's surpassed what Canelo Alvarez has sold in the past. He hasn't. It's not even like he's on par with Canelo's numbers. Canelo sold 800,000 pay-per-view buys opposite the ring Caleb Plant off his name and his name alone, whereas Gervonta had the assisted aid of Ryan Garcia. Without Ryan, you don't put up these kinds of numbers, and moving forward, take Ryan out of the equation. If you fight Isaac Cruz again or Rolly Romero again.
Those numbers are gonna nosedive.
You won't generate the same interest and the same fan reaction, the same fan participation opposite the ring, those guys, that you did with this guy. You won't.
I feel like they set the bar exceptionally low for Gervonta Davis because they want him to be something that he isn't.
That this weekend's fight might have done robust numbers comes as no surprise to me because I anticipated that it would.
It could.
But that uptick in box office buys is acute.
Singular.
Go ahead. Fight Isaac Cruz again. Or Rolly Romero if he becomes WBA champion and see what that does. See what that does and compare it to this.
Tell me again how he's the face of boxing.
I don't expect that Gervonta Davis will face either Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson moving forwards. Those fights would have a decent profile, decent enough to do decent numbers at the box office, but because I don't expect Gervonta to fight either of them, who can he fight between 135 and 140 pounds that would get him robust numbers?
All the other guys that have any kind of a profile are on other sides of the street. Moreover, how many of them would go for all the weight stipulations in play in this past weekend's fight?
This past weekend's fight may have very well done robust numbers. That comes as no surprise to me, but I said it beforehand. No matter what this singular fight does, this singular event, unless Gervonta Davis has intentions of facing the other notariable fighters at this weight, that success will be short-lived.
His numbers will plummet immediately after in his very next fight, depending on who he fights, because he's not the face of boxing.
This past weekend's fight was a high-profile fight.
Between two guys that have a profile, but you goes back to fighting nobodies.
You'll see a sharp decline, and I have a sneaking suspicion that what's next for Gervonta is a Rolly Romero rematch at 140 pounds.
We'll see what's next.
And how that sells.
Hey King Ryan, in sparring, I injured you with the body shot. Now you lost to Tank. I am sorry. Are you okay?
This was uploaded to social media by way of one of Ryan Garcia's sparring partners ahead of the Gervonta Davis fight, and it's a bit hard to interpret. Most are interpreting it as this Mongolian guy pouring salt in Ryan Garcia's wounds.
That he's the mole that everybody was talking about ahead of the fight.
Gervonta Davis was asked before the fight if he can hurt Ryan Garcia to the body, to which Gervonta replied he got hurt to the body.
How did he know?
Gervonta said he got hurt to the body before. He thinks I don't know that. It wasn't in no fight. Ask him.
How did he know?
Let him know that I know he got hurt to the body. Word gets around real fast.
Ryan Garcia himself, via his own social media, said, "Actually sad I had a mole in my camp. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy. But thank God it's brought to light now."
These are some of the underhanded tactics that have garnered Gervonta Davis a lot of criticism.
You had to do all this for Ryan Garcia?
Ryan Garcia, who said, also didn't mean for that to come off as an excuse or anything. I lost, period. I'll come back, but I'm just shocked that part of my team crossed me, someone close to me. Unbelievable, but it's a testimony that you must be aware of anyone.
And everyone. It's almost like the guy confessed.
How else are we to interpret the video that Mongolian sparring partner, how else are we to interpret that video other than
a confession, an admission that he's the mole that everybody was talking about ahead of this fight?
A few passing thoughts. I actually think this goes on more often than people realize. And the only reason that this situation stands out is because the guy actually had the gall to confess.
If not for this video that this guy uploaded himself, we wouldn't know what mole they were talking about, who they were talking about, but this puts a face on it.
And there are very few ways to interpret this aside from this guy pouring salt in Ryan Garcia's wounds.
That's how it looks.
Though I think this happens more often than not in the sport of boxing, behind the scenes, behind closed doors. It happens behind closed doors for a reason. You don't want to amass a reputation as a double agent, the kind of person, the kind of unscrupulous individual who would relay that intel to the opposing camp, the opposing team. And that's what this Mongolian guy just did. I mean, who's going to want to use him for sparring now?
He's a rat.
He's a fucking rat. How do you know that you don't hire this guy for sparring and he don't sell that intel to the team you're about to fight?
This guy's supposed to be an Olympian of some kind from Mongolia.
Seems to have been used as a pawn on the board in order to get the drop on Ryan Garcia and what he was doing in camp. I don't want to overstate the relevance of all of this because, in truth, I don't actually think Gervonta Davis needed to get the drop on Ryan Garcia per se, have a mole in his camp. I don't even think he needed the weight stipulations to beat that guy. But the fact that so much effort went into handicapping Ryan Garcia and getting the inside track on him, it all does communicate weakness. Even though Gervonta Davis won the fight, look at the circumstances.
It taints the victory because this is not an established fighter we're talking about.
It's not. I said it all in the build-up, and I'm saying it here and now. Ryan Garcia was tantamount to a prospect after he fought Luke Campbell, who's the best fighter that he fought, and that was approximately 3 years ago. 3 years later, the opponents didn't get better. He didn't all of a sudden start fighting for world titles. So why would you have to go to these lengths?
You're gonna do all this for Ryan Garcia? Catch weights, rehydration clauses, spies in his camp?
I don't give Gervonta Davis any credit for this victory, and I picked him to win. I picked him to knock out Ryan Garcia.
But I don't give him any credit for it.
Even though a lot of people want me to, I'm not impressed. If you are who you say you are, if you are every inch the tank you're made out to be, you shouldn't have to do all this for a guy like Ryan.
Ryan was the low-hanging fruit.
And I don't want to pile on that kid, but I'm just being honest that most people, most that I talk to, they don't view Ryan Garcia as being the same well-rounded boxer that, say, Devin Haney is or Shakur Stevenson.
Most people I knew already viewed Ryan as the low-hanging fruit before this weekend's fight. So the fact that you had to go to these lengths for him?
There are a lot of people. They want an idol. A lot of people in the American boxing scene, and they're willing to settle on a false idol because that's what Gervonta Davis is.
Yeah.
He's not the face of boxing.
And he's not as he appears. He's not who they say he is. If he were, he wouldn't have to do all this to Ryan.
I mean, do you think that Devin Haney would have any issue fighting Ryan Garcia at 140 pounds? Do you think Devin would have any issue facing a fully hydrated, well-prepared Ryan Garcia? Do you think Devin would impose weight stipulations and weight clauses on him?
Do you think Teofimo would have a problem boxing Ryan? At a full 140, no weight clauses.
Gervonta Davis' supporters have been running interference ever since news broke that all these weight clauses were attached to the fight, claiming that Ryan Garcia didn't do much at 140 pounds anyway. Well,
and some have outright denied that he's fought at that weight.
Caught a couple of strays in the comments of my videos, and I posted the links to BoxRec that confirm Ryan Garcia has not fought anywhere near 135 pounds in over a year. His last two fights were fought within the super lightweight limit.
Why do you guys think it's necessary to lie about something like that?
Was it pivotal to the victory that these weight stipulations be in play for the fight? Perhaps not, but we'll never know because Gervonta Davis chose to put these weight clauses on the guy.
They didn't end up there by accident. And this Mongolian guy, this sparring partner, what's that all about?
American boxing scene is desperate for an idol, even a false one, but I am not willing to overlook how egregious all of this is.
And I still think Gervonta Davis is a fraud. And beating Ryan didn't change that because I picked him to beat Ryan.